You're listening to Bastards All Day. Bad Waves on 1680 AM. Q4.org. Beloved gang, baby.
Ooh, beloved gang. All day, all day.
Ra-ta-ta! Ladies and gentlemen, it's on. And no, I didn't tell anybody to be quiet, but ladies and gentlemen, it's the last episode of the year. It's a party up in here. It's going down. Schwartz. Everything is Schwartz. So I have no problem with people hearing the vibe of the room, man. We vibing in here. We having a good time. A bunch of friends and family holding it down as one, talking crazy, talking madness. And speaking of talking crazy and talking madness, we about to talk some madness to Peter John Byrnes. We're going to hit him up. I told him we were supposed to call him about 3 minutes ago. Peter wrote an interesting article about how he doesn't like improv and how he thinks it's not a good art form, and which is, I think it was titled, Why Improv is Neither Funny or Entertaining, according to a stand-up comedian. I believe this is what it was called. So DJ, your girl, go ahead and give him a call, and we're going to see how this pops off. I got a couple of questions. I'm sure some of the people in the room have some questions. I know, everybody turned like as the music was playing, everybody was like, yeah, when I see somebody, I'll be like, and then once it...
Hello.
Yo, what's up, Brother Peter?
Hey there, how are you?
All right, Daddy, how you feeling out here on the land?
I'm feeling beleaguered. How about that?
That's interesting. Beleaguered. What's the definition of that word so I can run off with that?
A little fun fact.
The beleaguered, under siege, in a bunker, hiding from the torches and the pitchforks.
Can you spell beleaguered? I was going to say, this is spelling bee now.
My beleaguer.
Use that in a sentence. Oh, and please, sir, do not swear on the radio. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're on the radio, and there's some things that we have to pay attention to, like our way we talk and our profanity. So that'd be awesome. And so, Brother Peter, so you wrote an article. Now, mind you, before I even go any further in this, there's a room full of improvisers and stand-ups, and a DJ is in here, too. That is DJ, your girl. She's holding it down. We're having our last episode of the year. And we're just having a good time, so we make sure to get all of our friends in here who represents from our squad, beloved gang, Ijima or Ricky Bomb. I expect none of that to mean anything to you. Beloved. But it means so much to some of us. So we saw this article. Everybody saw this article, man. And it's a huge deal. It became a huge deal in the comedy scene. And in Chicago, Chicago is kind of the mecca of comedy. People come from all over the world to learn stuff and to watch things, and it's really a special place for comedy. I mean, hell, my father was an entertainment journalist, and as a little boy, I'm talking about like 6 years old, I've been hanging out in stand-up clubs and watching improv and whatnot. So, comedy is serious here. And you wrote an article in The Reader called Why Improv is Neither Funny Nor Entertaining, according to a stand-up comedian. And now, can you tell me a little bit about this article and how it came about?
Yeah, sure. And understand this was intended as sort of an occasional piece. So, the way these things work, the Chicago Reader reached out to me in mid-November and said, we're doing a Worst of Chicago issue. Throw us 4 topics. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, and a little paragraph of how you might approach the piece and what have you. So I said, fine. O'Hare... Ferris Bueller's Day Off, improv, and vampires. And for the record, I don't think vampires exist. I just thought it'd be funny to pretend that they did. So the reader came back.
No, go ahead.
The reader came back to me and said, do the improv one. I said, okay, fine. And, it has to be 500 words. So, I write 500 words of mean roast jokes. Although, to be clear, if they had picked Ferris Bueller, I would have been really mean to Ferris Bueller as well. I send it off. The way these things work when you write for any publication is you don't get to pick the headline, nor do you get to pick the picture that goes along with it, or any quotes they pull out and, put underneath your headline or anything like that. In the Chicago Reader Worst of Chicago issue, the headline for it was improv. Just like the headline for the piece that was angry about Navy Pier said Navy Pier. Because that was it, right? And on the page, I think in context, the Navy Pier article was mean about Navy Pier, and it didn't say, by the way, this Navy Pier article was written by an improviser, and the Bruce Rauner article was mean to Bruce Rauner, didn't say it was written by a Democrat. But when they decided to print the sections by themselves, I got that headline, which was, shall I say, provocative. Mm-hmm. And I think it also, when people started sharing around, took it out of context. It didn't, show itself to be, oh, here's a bunch of articles dumping on a bunch of different things in Chicago. Bro culture. There was a piece on how we're all suffering under an inferiority complex because of the second city. It was like, on its own, shared around on its own with that headline. I think it started to read like I was sitting around my office and said, God, I am burning to take down improv. Not the case.
Peter John.
It's a bunch of... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Sherman here, by the way. What's up, man?
Hey, Sherman.
Yeah,
good to see you,
man. I just want to know, like, how fast was it when you started getting that backlash? Like, how did you know, like, oh, man, this does not go the way I was thinking it was going to go?
Let's see. 10 a.m., I'm looking at the comments come in. And again, to be clear, I knew that there would be some people that might say, ouch, when I put it out there, right? I mean, the jokes were Golden Globes introduction mean, some of them. Right?
Lay away your science things.
So, I knew that there were a couple people that might not get that this was supposed to be a roast and say, ouch. Or they did understand it was supposed to be a roast and say, ouch. So 10 a.m., I'm watching some of the comments come in, and I think, okay, well, this is kind of funny. 2 p.m. when that article, the day the article came out, I went, oh no, because at that point it had been shared over 2,000 times, and I'm seeing on Facebook denunciations from angry improv groups in North Carolina. At this point, the co-founder.
That's the real birthplace of improv, by the way.
the real birthplace. Matt Chiaramonte is in the room, by the way.
Hey, Pete.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah. No, this is a safe place, my friend. That's why you were contacted. But yeah, he said the real birthplace is North Carolina. the real birthplace of improv. Sorry.
It's Boston, Ireland, Australia, and I'm like, oh, this is gone. This is not. I mean, again, this was supposed to be for the Chicago Reader. I figured, a couple of mean comments. I put it on my Facebook page, and like almost anything else on my Facebook page, I don't know, 15 likes. Because to be clear, for anyone who was in the commenting section, I am a failure and a nobody. I accept that. I embrace that fully.
I was also really surprised by the people who reached out to you, like Susan Messing reached out to you, Matt Besser from UCB reached out to you. Have you followed up with that at all?
Shout out to Matt Besser. He cool as hell.
I mean, again, it's like if I had written the O'Hare article instead of the improv article, and the CEO of United, wrote an angry comment. I mean, that's been one of the more baffling things to me, that Matt Besser, who has a job, decided to sit down and treat me as though I was, he was demanding that I come debate him on his podcast. And I wrote back to him rather extensively saying, look, man, there's not going to be much of a debate here. I mean, these are some mean jokes, but I don't, argue against improv's right to exist or anything like that. And then he just wrote some really sort of unhinged comment back about, he'd gone to see my YouTube and he thought I was funny. No, wait, haha, here's a smiley face emoji. I mean, I believe the invite has been rescinded. I'm not going to go on and debate him. But yeah, Napier, the co-founder of
Mick.
Annoyance.
Mick. Yeah.
Nick Napier.
We know him.
And he actually wrote a fairly decent response, but it was getting attention in quarters that, I mean, I honestly didn't suspect. I don't think the woman who wrote the Navy Pier article, Julia Weiss, who is also a well-known improviser, is getting hate mail from the board of directors of Navy Pier. You know what I mean?
Well, you never know. But hi, my name is Leia. I'm one of the crew here. So I have a question. Do you personally hate improv? Personally,
No.
without
I mean,
let's say the reader never asked you to write this article, but as a human being, do you hate improv?
I don't hate improv. I will say as an art form, if I'm going to, be truly honest about this, it's not in certain formats, not my favorite. But I could also say that about ballet, right? And I didn't think I would anger the ballet community as much. You know what I mean? So but hate now.
That was Matt Shiramonte. Shiramonte.
Yeah, no.
Noted ballerina.
No.
The ballerina community is important to me. It gave me all my friends, and it's really important.
And all my friends are dead.
Without ballerinas, I'd be nothing. You're a monster.
You're a monster.
So here's the Sherman again. This is my thing. When I read it, I don't know, I got it right away that it's kind of a bit. You're kind of trolling. It's kind of how many people actually got it? Like how many people have reached out? Like, oh, I get it. I see what you're doing. This is actually a funny piece.
There were some. I
Like two.
I'd say probably reaction is running 1/3 I get it to 2/3 not.
I mean, if you think about it, like you are pooping on Chicago. A lot of people come here from all over the world, and they come here for Second City, Annoyance, IO, and like Comedy Sports. This is the best place you can ever take improv classes. So I can see why people would be hurt, but maybe since you don't really particularly like improv as an art form, or you like something else, have you seen other like really good improv groups like Cook County, Pimprov? There's other
Bastards of the Underground
that's out there. Like, have you seen them perform?
No, I haven't done an extensive survey. I would also say, again, for the purposes of the piece, if I had written a piece on ballet,
Careful.
I wouldn't expect people to say you have to go to ballet shows 5 times a week before you can really say something. And again, it's not as though this is sitting around as a burning pit in my stomach. As an art form, it has generally left me a little cold. But that's not to say, I didn't like the show Breaking Bad either, but I acknowledge that other people enjoy it.
Whoa.
I acknowledge that it has a right to exist. I know. That's what's really going to get me the hate mail.
It's also just tricky, too. Because, as improvisers, we're trained to, do satire and parody and make fun of other people, hoping that they can take a joke. So it's very fascinating that whole scene is not.
Preach. I mean, not.
Well, I will also say, that there are a lot of, not a lot. I mean, and again, these are the people that, when I'm talking about 2/3, 1/3, those are the people that are taking time to comment. If you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Which you have to be motivated to want to sit down and type something in the little box. I think most people read it, and to be honest, let's all be honest. Most people read it on the L on the way to their job and gave no more thought to it than 5 minutes after they read it. Maybe 5 minutes after they read it. Right. That's most people.
You're right, because I'm actually a piece of crap. I thought about it a great deal, and I thought about what I wanted to say to you on your comment section, but then I also read it again, and then I read it like 3 times, and I was like, and I saw the comment section, I was like, oh man, this is a dude that just got thrown into something. This is a dude who's totally like trying to do a thing, and then everybody losing their mind, and that's what made me contact you, because it was like, bro, you're not, I don't really think that you're running around like, I can't stand improv all the time. I felt like it was a situation where somebody was like, hey, what are some things you don't like?
It's like he said, it's a roast. So he's like, how can I go as hard as I can on this thing? I'm just going to go hard body, every line after line. I'm going to go hard on this thing.
And our homie Peter said the same thing. Peter Cremidas said the same thing. Like, why are y'all harassing this dude? Like, y'all need to do something with your time instead of staring at this article and being like, don't ruin my art form. It's not all that. You know
I do
what
think it gets tricky because then there is also a good amount of stand-ups who read the article and was like, oh yeah, 100% I agree.
Right, the old feud.
So then that made a lot of improvisers get really butthurt about it.
Yeah.
And I think
no, and that.
I think
what I was going to say when I was saying it was 2/3, 1/3, I really wanted to make clear that part of that 2/3 that didn't get it included a lot of stand-ups, which is another position I'm not comfortable with. You know, I mean, I try not to be rude to people that are saying nice things about the piece, but I am trying to say to anyone who thinks that I'm the general calling, for a siege. That's not me, man.
you created a war, man. Between stand-ups and improvisers. But there are people that do
I'm the
both.
Leader of some political. Yeah, no, there are people that think I'm trying to lead a political movement or something. I'm like, and that's as disappointing to me, if not more so, than the improvisers getting upset. If you're a stand-up and you think that this was a 100% sincere hate piece trying to take down.
Uh-oh.
Did he get cut off?
Did he get cut off? Oh, no.
Oh.
I had a whole thing that I was about to do.
Call him back.
Oh, no.
And it was all time sensitive.
Uh-oh.
You can call him again.
We'll get him back.
Puss bucket. So we're going to get him back. DJ, your girl's hitting him back. Or is he hitting us back?
I've got a theory on the reaction. Oh.
I'm not available right now to speak to you.
No.
But if you please leave your name and your phone number.
I hate voice.
No, that's a voicemail. Okay, do you want to leave my hate voicemail? Matt Sharamani want to leave my hate voicemail. You go too far with this comedy. You go too far with this comedy, Matt.
I think he's improvising right now. Just kidding.
His line has been cut.
To listen to your message, press.
Yeah, he's probably trying to call us.
the man.
I think a bunch of improvisers hacked onto his phone and cloned
Illuminati did it.
Improviser and
what I love is that some of these people have been going crazy, and I wanted to give a quick shout out to the Bastards of the Underground, Beloved Gang, and their whole improv division because we received some.
You left off. Press 4.
Oh, Puss Bucket. Let's see, is it working? Hello?
Are you still there?
Yes, so I'm here. I'm
not
here.
available right now.
Oh my gosh! But it was all good, and the music was going with it, and all that.
Everybody was serious.
Peter, if you're listening, call back. Otherwise, we'll try to hit you up on the next show.
Yeah. I've got a theory why some improvisers overreacted so much. I think it's either it struck a chord with some people on their insecurity, or in improv you don't really have as much like roast. Like in stand-up you have roast where you roast your good friends, like your best friends, and it's all in like fun. So I kind of think maybe the fact that doesn't really exist as much in improv, and maybe people just feeling insecure about stuff, which happens in all comedy. People feel insecure sometimes.
I think the other hot button line, there's a big line in it that said, improv supports mediocrity or something like that. That was like a big... That was like the biggest sin.
The form's greatest sin is encouraging mediocrity.
And it's tricky because, 80% of improv is bad. And I'll say that. I'll go on record. I'll go on the reader and write that. 80%.
He's an improviser.
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And
shut up on tape.
But because it's such a big group, and it's a group effort, so it's people together, and usually you're a group of friends, so it's not, you're not as likely to be as hard on your friends about you'd rather do improv with your friends than with people who are maybe the best improvisers in the world, because or you wouldn't.
Well, my friends are the best improvisers.
Some of us are lucky, like the Bastards of the Underground.
That's all I'm saying. I'll keep going. I'm sorry.
No, but you're right. And when you get that group, that's when improv is great. But you can fall into a hole where it's like, well, these are the people that I took improv classes with. I'm not going to kick them out of my improv. And then
that happens.
And where stand up, you're more on your own merits, and then you're doing good or bad. So it's easier in stand up to have a standard, where improv it can kind of get washed down to closer to mediocrity.
I also feel like there's more heckling in stand up, so you have to be on your toes. And then like improv, you might get less laughs if you're doing a dramatic scene, but like stand up, it's demanded you get laughs the whole show. So it's a different gauge of what is successful art in improv or stand up.
He ends that article, though, there will never be a profound improv set. So I'm just curious, does anyone have a profound improv set that did come to mind?
TJ and Dave.
I saw one before. Yeah.
I've watched.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. When I was a young man, I used to watch TJ and Dave. Actually, I was one of the first interns for TJ and Dave. Not to date myself, but I used to watch that show as a kid, and as an adult, I mean, kid, it's like early 20s or late teens. But then as I became older and I saw it, and it was like kind of similar. There were dramatic pieces that still had funny stuff in it. It was solid acting. TJ is definitely funny for sure, but I'll never stop praising Dave Pasquazi. Mm-hmm. Dave Pasquazi can take real moments and genuine moments where he's acting, and they can be funny, but they still connect to the character and the story that they're trying to tell and trying to convey.
I think he's calling.
Dave does a little bit of stand-up, too.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi, are you back?
Hi there.
Hi.
Oh,
what
well,
happened?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome back. Let's continue because Warren does have a few questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, a couple of questions, but after talking to you, I kind of only have a couple things to say. So before I say anything, do you think all improv is bad?
No, of course not.
Okay.
I mean, it would be like writing. How to put it? I could have very easily written an article taking down stand-up, right?
Well, yeah, it's way easier.
Way easier.
Boy,
way easier, and I would have completely agreed with all of it. And if someone said, "What do you mean about George Carlin?" Right? Well, of course that's not what I'm talking about, right? Just like the person who was writing, about the CTA, probably if you pushed him, would acknowledge that the CTA is a method of transporting a bunch of people around the country, around the city, is pretty impressive. There are just a lot of horrible people sitting on it.
Something that was discussed while you were off is one of the lines you wrote that I agree with is that improv supports mediocrity. And then me and Matt, we kind of talked about it, and we all talked about it for a second. There are things in your article that totally make sense and we agree with. And so
they're jokes with teeth. I mean, I knew where the bodies were buried, but, one could also very easily say that about stand-up, too, right? I mean, there's a lot of mediocre stand-up that gets wild approval, in both Chicago and elsewhere. Mm-hmm. 99%.
I think you're great, Peter.
Well, yeah. Well, you're apparently among a minority this week, so. But no, I mean,
you can tell by how he dressed. There's a shout out to his outfit. Go ahead.
Yeah. They're 90% of everything is garbage, right? Yes. But no, I don't deny that there's outstanding improv out there. I mean, just like, if I had written on Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
yeah, what's your hot take?
I would have gone hard. I would have gone hard after Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but it's not. There are some funny bits in it.
But the whole parade thing is kind of ridiculous, right?
Whoa!
Thing, and also, Ferris Bueller doesn't acknowledge that the city of Chicago exists beyond the south border of the Art Institute. I mean, as a tour of Chicago, it's pretty north side centric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and his friend looks like he's 30.
His friend looks like he's 30.
And they get everywhere.
They're from
so
Wilmette,
fast.
and they stole a Porsche. I mean, and the only people of color you see in that whole movie are the people, the two guys that steal the car.
Yeah. On a joyride.
Right. A couple of extras in the parade scene that are, some African American women who are apparently just loving this white boy singing Twist and Shout.
that they already had a choreographed dance ready somehow.
Right. And Sean Dunston at the Cubs game. That's it. That's the number of people of color that John Hughes wants to show you. Well,
let me ask you.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you a couple questions real quick, because I know there's some things that are jokes, and there's some things that may be right. So you said improv has as one of its core tenets is the notion of yes and, which directs young initiates to never say no to anything suggested to them on stage. Now, my question to you is: are improv teams that don't necessarily follow that rule wrong? because in our show, Bastard the Underground, which you can see tonight at Crossbreed Comedy and Laugh Factory at 8 p.m.
Well done, sir.
Thank you. Don't worry. It don't stop there, baby. We have a tendency to say no. We have a tendency to tell people that they're on stage, that their ideas suck. I have no problem doing it. Sherman is really good for it. We despise each other's bad ideas, and we have no problem throwing one another under the bus in front of the audience or in front of people for the audience's enjoyment. Are we wrong for that?
No, I mean, but part of it is like, let me put it this way: I don't think you're wrong, but are you wrong? Why the hell should you listen to me? I'm just a schmuck.
You've watched stuff.
Yeah.
You know a little bit about comedy.
You're a schmuck who's now written for the Chicago Reader.
Yeah. I've never written for the Chicago Reader. I've never done it,
and that may be a one-time thing. We'll see.
Peter,
no, I don't think it's a bad thing, and I also want to be clear. Like, I'm aware that was a caricature. For some reason, that seemed to be a sticking point with a lot of more hardcore improvisers, where they were like, well, you don't have to say yes to everything. You just have to accept the reality of the other person. And we usually lose that after the beginning classes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Fine. To some extent it was a caricature, but I would also say, if you went back to look at the BuzzFeed article that exposed sexual harassment in Iowa West and UCB West, that was like last January. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole brouhaha in Chicago improv comedy that also came out in the Chicago Tribune, last January, January 2016, I should say. Mm-hmm. Women quoted in that article talk about how they felt pressure to go along because of the tenet of yes and.
Oh yeah.
I didn't make that up. That's not me casting an aspersion at the improv community that wasn't already being talked about. I understand that it might be it's not like a complete 100% rule, but sure, have there been women that, we all know that, right? And you guys are, how I put it, a more integrated improv group than most, so you're aware of the joke that, like, black guy comes on stage and suddenly he's the burglar, right? That's an old improv joke.
Yeah, but here's and not to cut you off, but here's one of my issues.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
And I've seen this and I've heard this before, and here's my thing that really pisses me off, and not to be some minority dude making talking crazy about other minorities. I can't stand when some black person's like, well, they made me the this, they made me the that. No, you have a brain, you have the training, like you were talking about how you got to take these classes. Use that damn training. You paid that money to do that. They're not as smart as you just because they called you black and called you the burglar. No, they say, oh, your black ass is the burglar. You be like, what you doing in my neighborhood? All these rich black people with your white ass in here. You know what I mean? You can easily just flip it.
Yeah.
Every single time, any single time, you can flip it. Nobody is as smart as the other person, but when people victimize themselves, especially in this business, pisses me off. Like, oh my God, your brain works just as good as that person's brain just because they called you whatever race. Do you know how many women I played? Do you know how many Asians I played? And I'm black than a mother sucker. I played every summer, everything. You know what I mean? Because my brain just works just as good as the other person's brain. My training is just as good as the other person's training. And honestly, let me shout out my training. I had some pretty good people training me. So, like, when people do that, it really digs in my cross. Sorry to talk like an 80-year-old with 60 pounds of weed in his car.
What you're apologizing to me? If there's a cranky old man here, sir, I think I'm going to take that prize.
You can have it.
No, how to put it? Any clever person can flip that. It's just a drag that that happens in the first place, I guess is what I would say. And especially with women, I think there's there was and can still be an impulse to try. You're trying to show that you're not a scold. You're not being a bitch about it. So that way, when a guy comes on stage and says, "Oh, you're here for your gynecology appointment," you roll with it, right? Mm-hmm. And let's be clear. stand-up also has systemic structural problems that are rife for abuse for sexual harassment. Just because I made a joke about improv doesn't mean that I'm unaware. That was a range of comments that really, just made me throw up my hands. Or like, oh, apparently he's not aware of Louis C.K., to which I wanted to say, what? Did something happen? I'm sorry, I missed it. Yeah, I'm aware. I'm aware of Bill Cosby. I'm aware of Louis C.K. Go look at my timeline. Lots of mean jokes there. And we've got plenty of problems, too, on our own. But yeah, it wasn't. But again, like the piece wasn't supposed to be right about sexual harassment in the entertainment industry. It was go write 500 mean jokes about improv, or 500 words of mean jokes about improv. So that's what I did.
Well, we're coming to the end of this thing, but I really wanted to ask you something that I think you can answer. So yeah, sure. There's this little crew of friends, beloved gang, and we do things with the B.A.D Underground, and we do things with Improv Unlimited. And I just wanted to tell you, and I know that you were doing trying to do something satirical, but I want to tell you that people have said such things about the actors in this group and in this room. They were entertaining and absolutely enjoyable. That's from Don. And after they were gone, the conversation continued on how much they were wonderful. That's from Morton. Oh, and about the show that we're doing tonight. I cried from laughter. The host and the improv team were, capital letters, hilarious.
Yeah, but did any of them write an article for the Reader?
You know what? Kiss my ass, Sherman.
Peter.
Kiss my dirty, black, cold-written ass.
Peter, it's Matt. I have a proposition for you before you go. We're doing
sure.
Crossbreed. I don't know if you've seen the show, but the way that it works is it's, a stand-up comedian goes up, they do 10 minutes, and then Bastards of the Underground come up and they do 10 minutes of improv based on the comedian that just performed. They do that a few times.
Okay.
So the show is really about bringing together.
I've done a similar show. Yeah.
Sure. This one has Bastards of the Underground every month. So how would you like next month, if you're free, you come on, you do some stand-up, watch Bastards do improv based on your set. What do you think?
I would be delighted. I mean, again, there's no real deep-seated animosity here, guys. This is... So, yeah, I would be delighted, and I will be kind and friendly, and you can say whatever mean crap you want about me, and it'll all be all right.
That sounds great.
Oh, nice.
All
Bringing people together.
We're going to end the comedy wars.
Didn't know there were any. Well, thank you very much for talking to us. We really appreciate it.
Thank
Can't
you for
wait to
having me,
see
guys.
you next week, or next month, and play with you next month. And God bless Matt Sharamonte for being born. Matt Sharamonte. Well, yeah, we wanted to let you come on and speak your piece because nobody in this room hates you, and we believe that you are a decent human being that does not deserve to be treated like Frankenstein's monster. So,
to be clear, I am a monster. But
well, not Frankenstein's monster. There are a lot of different monsters.
No, right. Yes.
All right, well, we're going to have to let you go so we can stay on schedule here. We definitely went a lot longer with this piece than we thought we would have. Thank you very much, and see you next month, Daddy.
Thank you very much, guys. Take care. Peace.
Peace.
That went just as long as I thought it was going to go.
Did it really? Because that went long as all hell.
I knew.
But, that was... he wrote an article. It was viral.
Yeah.
This was going to go at least 20 minutes.
People were talking.
It was
all
like
about
one of the best pieces of radio that we've done.
We should get this on the air immediately.